Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose, and we do have more showcases to talk about today as Xbox entered the scene with their TGS showcase, and boy oh boy, if you like Xbox Game Pass, and if you like Japanese games, and well actually if you also like AAA games, well then you're going to love what we talk about today as they announced 8 pretty high profile Game Pass games. Really, this service is just too good sometimes, and you'll kind of understand why here in just a little bit. Nintendo, though, also made the news as a third-party studio gave their response on whether or not they'll support Nintendo in the future. Unfortunately, it's not looking very good as of this moment. Per usual, though, if you do find yourself enjoying the video, hit those buttons below. If you like gaming even in the slightest, then this is the channel for you. So again, hit those buttons below. Let's just go and jump right into things, though, starting off with Capcom's TGS showcase, as they had some rather interesting news, especially when it comes to Resident Evil. I'll get into that here in just a second, but first, they did announce a few other things as well. They did confirm that Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection will include online battles and chip trading, so that's actually pretty nice to see if you're a fan of the original Game Boy Advance games. It's already a pretty attractive collection the way it is, but to see them revive online connectivity as well, I think makes this even better. Plus, online connectivity will be much more accessible this time around. The days of those link cables are long gone by this point. Street Fighter 6, of course, was also at this event, and while they did reveal some more returning characters, including Ken, Blanca, Dhalsim, and E Honda, which I know a lot of people will be very excited about those characters. And I mean, in terms of gameplay, Street Fighter 6 really does look absolutely fantastic, and I honestly think even a step up from what we saw in Street Fighter 5. I'm very impressed by how this game looks so far. I love the effects that they're doing in this game, kind of mixing in a bold art direction. It's got a lot of personality to it, and I very much do like that. But one of the most curious things about this game is this shakeup in terms of its story. They are doing some different things. Previously, they did show this almost hub world that you can freely explore, and they further expanded on that aspect today. You do have completely customizable avatars in Street Fighter 6 that not only can you design, but you can also fight with these avatars as well. It does appear to be a pretty major focus on a story, and I really do like this idea as you can kind of be your own character within the game. If anything, this just adds a whole new layer to the already beloved Street Fighter core. Now, as for Resident Evil, they actually announced yet another showcase that will debut in October, and it will be completely dedicated to Resident Evil. So we should see some major updates for Resident Evil Village Gold, Resident Evil 4 Remake, and those VR editions sometime next month. There might be a few surprises here as well, so you never quite know about that, but of course I will keep you updated on all of that as we hear more. As for today, they did give us a new look into Resident Evil Village Gold, which includes the Winter's expansion, that new third-person mode, and then the new story expansion, Shadows of Rose, which is set 16 years after the events of Village. Now, both the main story as well as the new expansion will be completely playable in third-person view, which personally, I am absolutely thrilled about. Now, I do think that Resident Evil feels good in first person, there's no doubt about that, but I personally do still prefer third person, and it does look like they did that new third person camera mode justice here. It looks good, and I mean really good, so I very well might replay through this game once again. For those interested though, Resident Evil Village Gold will release on October 28th, so keep that in mind. If you're waiting for Resident Evil 4 Remake though, they did also make a surprise announcement here, which reveals 4 Remake will release on the Xbox Series, PlayStation 5, PC, and interestingly enough, the PlayStation 4. So in a bit of a surprise turn of events here, this is actually a cross-generation game. Now, they did ditch the Xbox One version, probably because the original 2013 Xbox One model, while the Xbox One X was technically the most powerful last-generation console, that original model was also the weakest. So they do have to kind of keep that in mind, and probably because of that, they decided to ditch the Xbox One version. But if you still haven't been able to get one of those next generation platforms yet, well, Capcom, they have your back with that PlayStation 4 version. There it is though, those were the big highlights for the Capcom TGS showcase, but there were some other updates here as well if you want to look into them. They did give us some updates on Monster Hunter Sunbreak, and then some more gameplay on Exoprimal, though I'm really not expecting much from that game specifically. If Capcom wants a dinosaur game, just bring back Dino Crisis. Let's just go jump right into our next showcase though, because Xbox put together a really good TGS event together that really shows their commitment in Japan and just giving fans worldwide beloved Japanese games on Xbox, and of course Xbox Game Pass. That there was the big focus today as they announced 8 new games, pretty much all of which are very high quality titles. So let's just go and check out this graphic here to show you exactly what I'm talking about. By the way, the credit for this graphic goes to Souls Ninja over on Twitter, so definitely go check that user out. But as you can see, they announced Danganronpa 3, Ni no Kuni Remastered, Ni no Kuni 2, Guilty Gear Strive, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Deathloop, and then Fuga Melodies of Memories are all heading over to Xbox Game Pass. Now this is actually a crazy lineup of games, as like I said before, pretty much all of these games are beloved in some shape or form. And what's so great here is that several of these games will be playable sometime this month. Now, the first one that we have to talk about, though, of course, is the much speculated Deathloop. Of course, we talked about this game yesterday as it did leak out on the Xbox Store just a little bit early, but it's now official. It is, in fact, heading over to Xbox consoles, including a Day 1 Game Pass release. That also includes PC Game Pass as well for those that are subscribed to that, and it will be available on September 20th. So there it is. The questions are now finally over. This is a first-party Xbox game as Microsoft now owns Bethesda, and that one-year timed PlayStation 5 exclusivity is done. Now, if you've yet to play Deathloop, this was one of the highest-rated games of last year, and it is absolutely a superb game. I don't think it really got the attention that it deserved, though, especially with it being in such a weird predicament. So the fact that it is coming over to Xbox Game Pass Day 1 is such a huge win for Xbox Game Pass subscribers as well as for the game itself. I do fully expect Deathloop to get much more attention this time around, and I think a lot of fans are going to love this game. This automatically is one of the best Game Pass releases of the entire year. Sticking to those AAA releases though, Ubisoft is continuing their Game Pass partnership with an Assassin's Creed Odyssey Shadow Drop. Yeah, you can actually download this one right now, and I mean, if you've been wanting more AAA games, well, here it is, and actually a really good one as well. I do consistently see Odyssey ranked among the better Assassin's Creed entries, and it's actually one of my favorite settings in the entire series. I do like that you play as a Spartan here. I've always really been fascinated with that era personally, and now you can play as a Spartan warrior within Odyssey. Now, this is one of those RPG entries, though, and that's where some fans are a little bit more mixed, as some fans do prefer that classic gameplay more, but that really just all kind of depends on your own personal preference. As for Japanese games, I have to give a big shout out to Danganronpa. Now, if you all have been watching this channel for a while, you probably know that I do like this series, as it is actually one of my favorite series, just period. And now all 3 of the mainline games are available in Xbox Game Pass. And yes, you did hear that right. Danganronpa 3, much like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, is available to download right now. And let me tell you, if you like just wild stories filled with mystery, then you need to play these games. They do play out like visual novels, so they're not going to be for everybody, but they do drop you in these mysterious locations, and in order to escape, you have to murder one of the others stuck in that location with you. The twist here, though, is that you have to get away with the killing. So after a murder takes place, there's this trial to figure out who done it. If that person is then found, then they're executed. It is a rather dark story, no doubt about it, but it is just so gripping as you witness your friends betray one another. I do highly recommend this entire series, especially if you like story-driven games, which again, are all available in Xbox Game Pass. Now, Ni no Kuni is another one that is very well received, and I have seen a lot of requests for this one to come over to Xbox, so here it is. It is finally coming. Now, this game does mix in a beautiful and timeless Studio Ghibli art style. It looks just so great, with almost a Pokemon or maybe even Tales of battle system. You catch these little monsters, and then you can evolve them and all that, but one of the better parts of this game is its charming story and characters. It is pretty emotional, and it grabs you pretty early on, but this is such a great addition for Xbox. This is actually a level 5 game, which they're really not all that active outside of Japan anymore, sadly, which I think makes this release even more interesting. Hey, maybe if they have some success here, they could also bring over some of their other games, like maybe Yokai Watch. Probably not, but hey, we can certainly hope for that. Nonetheless, Ni no Kuni will release into Xbox Game Pass once again today, with its sequel coming sometime in 2023. Really, it's going to be pretty difficult to figure out which game you want to start playing first. Then for you fighting game fans out there, Guilty Gear is finally heading over to Xbox as well with their latest entry, Strive. Now, this game is a little further out with a 2023 release, and that also goes to BlazBlue as well. But one thing that you're seeing here is that this is not like last generation. Xbox is bringing back these fighting games with Street Fighter 6, you have Tekken 8, and now you also have both Guilty Gear Strive and BlazBlue. These are all among some of the more popular fighting games out there. So that is another really good part of this announcement, and shouldn't be overlooked. The Xbox Series, without a doubt, will have a more rounded library of games than what we saw last generation. Now, as for Fuga Memories of Melody, this is the one game that I don't really know much about, but I did see some fans of it today praise this announcement. It is a turn-based RPG of sorts, and at the very least, it could be a game worth paying attention to. What I will say, though, is Xbox's TGS showcase was even better than what I originally expected. I know they were teasing some Game Pass announcements here, but I mean, this is just absolutely fantastic. This was a great showcase. And you know, the thing about all these new additions is that this only adds to their upcoming lineup. Of course, they do also have those Persona games on the way. They have Iodine Chronicles coming. And then for Western games, you still have A Plague Tale Requiem, Atomic Heart, Stalker 2. And then you also have their big first-party games like Starfield and Redfall as an example. Their next 12 months are beyond words by this point. I really don't see how you could possibly look at their upcoming lineup and not be impressed. Let me know though, out of all the games that they announced today, which one are you most looking forward to? Now, we do also have one last thing to talk about, and that's for the possibility of Yakuza appearing on the Nintendo Switch. Sega and RGG did have a big week as they announced 3 new Yakuza games that are releasing over the next couple years. It is going to be a fun time for Yakuza fans out there. But this franchise really is just growing in popularity right now. It's really interesting to me though, because while Sonic is without a doubt Sega's mascot, in terms of quality, Yakuza might actually be their best franchise. At the very least, it does rank near the top. But that's one of the reasons that some fans would like to know whether or not they could see Yakuza come over to the Nintendo Switch or other Nintendo platforms sometime in the future. Now, they did actually release Yakuza 1 and 2 on the Wii U years ago, but since then, pretty much nothing. So RGG was asked about this, and let's just go and check out their response here. Do we want to put a title like this where we're going around and picking a fight with the world and doing all this Yakuza stuff on a Switch? According to the producer, the family-friendly image of the Switch in its home ground of Japan clashes with the underground feeling that Yakuza games project. We still kind of think of ourselves as people of the night world, right? We don't want to be like walking around the day with everybody else. Like for us, it's kind of showing this kind of underground feeling. I think the underground kind of feeling is what we want to do. So, I mean, with this response here, yeah, don't go expecting Yakuza on any Nintendo platform in the near future. This is kind of a strange reason to me, though. I think if he came out and said something along the lines, the Switch just doesn't have the technical power that we want for our games, I think that would be a little bit more understandable. The modern entries of Yakuza, after all, do look very good, and in order to bring them over to the Switch, they would have to downgrade them quite a bit. I mean, technically they could do that. We've seen other games like The Witcher on the Switch, but not every studio wants to go in that direction or thinks the resources poured into a project like that is worth it. So I think a response like that would be a little bit more understandable here. Instead, though, they're just kind of like, nah, Nintendo's too family-friendly for us, which, I mean, I guess is true to a degree. Nintendo does have a very specific image, but all at the same time, Nintendo also has games like Bayonetta and Xenoblade, which can be viewed as more mature titles. There's also plenty of other third-party games like Dark Souls, Witcher, as I just mentioned. They even have GTA, and so on and so forth. It does seem like several of those games have had some success on the Switch, so I don't really know if I'm jiving with this response here. I think what's really happening is, again, the technical power and just figuring out whether or not a downgraded version would actually be worth it for the studio. And a large part of that skepticism might be because Yakuza didn't exactly do all that well on the Wii U years ago. So I think some of the hesitance might spawn from that a little bit more. And to be fair, I don't know how it would perform on the Switch. I mean, it might have some success or it might not. I have no idea. I just kind of thought that this response here was a little bit more iffy. But let me know what you all think. Do you think RGG has a point or not? At the very least, though, they are expanding Yakuza in other ways by branching the franchise out to Xbox and PC on top of PlayStation, and the future does seem very, very bright with 3 new incoming entries that I am very much looking forward to myself. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, what letter grade would you give the ID at Xbox Showcase livestream? Now, keep in mind, this is not the TGS Showcase, but they did have that Indie Showcase yesterday livestream, whatever you want to call it. So I wanted to get your all's thoughts on that, and as you can see here, 11% of you gave it an A, 27% of you gave it a B, 41% of you gave it a C, 11% of you gave it a D, and then 10% of you gave it an F. Now, I was actually a little surprised with some of the positive responses in results here because, I mean, I watched this showcase myself, and the problem really just comes down to pacing. There's some interesting games in these showcases. They've done this now, what, I think 3 times, and in every one of those situations, they've had some interesting games to show. But the pacing is ridiculous, and they just don't respect their viewers' time whatsoever. So this was another 2-hour showcase, and I mean, there's parts where they're talking about a fishing game for dead serious, like 20 minutes. I mean, it's a fishing game. We kind of get the point. We don't need 20 minutes to talk about it. But hey, it is what it is. I'm going to give it a D for the presentation. And in terms of games, that's where I'll give it a C. So, I mean, that's just kind of my opinion. And I think if Xbox wants to improve these showcases, just maybe listen to some of the criticism, fix the pacing. I mean, they could do this more like what they do for their Xbox Bethesda showcases, where one day they focus on trailer after trailer after trailer, and then the next day they can give the developers their time in a spotlight as they talk about their games specifically. That way you kind of get the best of both worlds. Now, as for TGS, that will actually be for our next poll, and yeah, now that's a showcase that I thought was very good. So yeah, keep an eye on that next poll. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.